Hi, everyone. This is Polly, and I am so honored, like beyond honored, to have Ellie with me. She is an animal communicator. She's a leader, a teacher, a healer, an author. She's the founder of the Gentle Barn. But I mean, there's so much to her, like all of us, there's so much to each one of us. But I think one of the things I really want to touch on before we find out about how she does work with animals and all the beautiful work that she does, you know, tuning into Ellie, um, what she feels like to me is really interesting. So it's not even that I can say I have this beautiful person or this beautiful soul here. She's so much more than that because of all the work that she's done, all the people she's helped, all the animals that she's helped. Their energy comes through her. So I don't just see Ellie as a person. I see Ellie as, just this, she just radiates all the energy of all the love that she's ever done, which is really tremendous. And so she really is, like all of us, but she really shows us this so much more than a person, so much more than one soul. She embodies all of it. But one of the things that I'm picking up is that, she came into this world a very sensitive being, somebody that really she just feels everything, right? And there's a lot of us out there like that. And so to how to move from that place of being so sensitive and picking up and feeling so much, how you move from that place and that place where you're thinking, why does this happen? Because you're aware of so much. Why is this happening? Because you don't see the world as a place where it should be happening. How do you move from that place of why and the pain into this place of being empowered and healing and really being the change of our world right now? Like Ellie is part of this big shift. So Ellie, how was that for you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yes, just like you depicted, I was born open and raw and empathic and intuitive and connected to all living creatures and connected to other human beings. And I almost felt like an alien here. I almost felt like, what am I doing here? I don't seem to fit in with anyone around me. Even my own immediate family doesn't really understand me. I see animals as healers, teachers, and friends, where everyone else sees them as these disposable belongings that you could just bring in and throw away. I heard the cries of wild animals and domestic animals in my neighborhoods, the woods and the lakes surrounding me. I would go and answer those cries and bring them home and raise them till they could fly away or hop away. And my parents said, "Oh my God, stop your nonsense!" And my friends teased me and did horrible things on the playground at school. I was always trying to save the bees and the flies and like even little frogs or little injured birds on the playground from these horrible kids that wanted to do horrible things. And I also spent my time at school protecting kids that were being bullied. So I just didn't understand it. I didn't understand the lack of love and empathy. I didn't understand how I was so richly and deeply connected to all those around me, but no one else seemed connected at all. Um, I still don't really understand it. Um, and I went through a really, really long journey where um, in my younger years, I retreated to the woods and lakes by my house, wanting more and more to be with animals that seemed more like me than the kids that I was surrounded with. I kind of got through school and tried to protect the innocent as much as possible, but couldn't wait to get home to my garden where the hummingbirds were, to lay in the honeysuckle and communicate with the bees and explore the woods and find little salamanders under logs or sit with the wild bunnies. That's where I felt most at home. And the deeper my connection to animals, the further away from people I found myself. So it kind of created this divide where I felt more and more and more lonely and separated and misunderstood with people. And then I think that the break happened when I hit high school and I really started becoming bullied and teased for how I was and how sensitive I was and how connected to animals I was. And in a very desperate attempt to want to be quote unquote normal like everybody else, I slammed the door shut to my intuitive side, to my connection to animals and my relationship with nature. I just wanted to be normal. I wanted to be like the other kids. And the minute I did that, I just went downhill. I mean, the minute we deny who we are and try to be like someone else, it's really just a very slow and painful death. And so it led me down a very dark road to promiscuity and drinking and drugs. And just, I mean, if you're not going to be connected to who you are, then you've got to ease that pain. And so it leads you to addiction, because how else are you going to survive? And in my very early 20s, I literally was on drugs, completely 100% disconnected from who I was and the intuitive relationships I have with animals and nature. And it led me down such a dark road that there was a moment where I sat down and said, well, maybe it's time to just get off this planet. If it's so painful and I can't be who I am and I can't be the way other people want me to, maybe it's just time for me to leave. And I had a very, very serious talk with myself to determine whether I wanted to stay or go. And after a lifetime of wanting to go, in that very dire moment where I really was going to make it happen, I discovered that I didn't want to go. And it shocked me. And then I said, okay, well, then what are you going to do to stay? And the only answer was, well, now I have to embrace who I am. I have to be who I am. I have to do what I've come here to do. I have to answer my callings. I have to live on purpose. I have to fulfill my destiny. And if they don't want to accept me for it, then I have to live with that too. And so I kind of got up, took a shower, had a nice meal, moved across town, started walking on my path, and started crawling out of that hole that I had dug for myself. And slowly, slowly, I started doing what I've come here to do, which is to save animals, to be an intuitive, to communicate on behalf of them, and to help open the rest of humanity's hearts to them. Because obviously there's something that I see in nature and animals that most don't. And so it's now my responsibility to connect that divide, to open the hearts, to help them see, to change their minds, and to help them love like I do. And I think that that is the greatest lesson that I have found, that those of us that feel so different, we are here to help others see what we see and feel what we feel. We are here to lead the way. And that's a really big responsibility. But once we can own who we are and find our way clear, the rest of humanity is counting on us, because obviously they don't see and they don't feel. And so we've been the ones that are here to help them along. And now finally doing that, it's a tremendous honor and pleasure and privilege.
I mean, what you said just it speaks to so many people, because I mean, the work that I do, there's so many people out there that it just doesn't feel good and they don't feel like they belong, right? But we all come in with these abilities. And really, I think it's interesting, because I think society and just humanity we're conflicted, right? Because part of us deep down knows peace and compassion. But then there's this other part that thinks that this is how you live. And so we really are a conflicted species right now. And I guess in that moment, that's when the strength came, because you have that strength. You have that ability to honor your gift, to honor your calling, and to make the change, right? You did that. And that's what I think, if anybody listening, this isn't just about animals and animal communication, which I love, but it's also answering that call of, what you're here to do. So whether it's communicating with animals, whether it's, caring for the elderly, whatever it is, answer the call. Absolutely. So, I have some questions we have great questions. And then at the end, I really want to know, your greatest message for humanity, for the listeners. But so some people sent in different questions, and one of them, I think this is really sweet. Do animals like a job, or would they rather just be pets? And I think, don't you have a dog that's like a sheepdog type dog, like a worker dog? So that's, with those type of animals, is such a great question.
Yes. I think I love that question. And I think that all of us, whether we're human or animals or no matter what species we are, I think all of us need a purpose, but that purpose doesn't look the same in each of us. So to some, it's to be very busy and creative and productive and leaders, right? In others, it's just to sleep 20 hours a day, but to hold vigil for your family. So a lot of times we'll see animals that look like they're not really doing a job. They're just kind of laying around, eating and sleeping. But the truth is, they're elevating the vibration for the entire home. They're holding vigil for all of us. And they're a place where we can all come to seek that peace and unconditional love. So every single solitary one of us is doing a job, no matter what it looks like. And yes, we all want a job, we all want a purpose, and we all want to know we matter, humans and animals alike.
I love that answer. And since you brought up holding vigil for the family, I have to say that the other thing I picked up about your, like the gentle barn and just your life in general, is it is almost like you have like, um, you know, I don't like the word soldiers, but I'm just going to put it out there. Like you have this, you're so protected, right? There's just so much protection around the work you do and around the gentle barn. And it's so sweet. And at first I was like, well, is it like the family each feels like they have a certain part, but there's just like this real strong community. And it's not just community on this side, it's community on the other side also that just fiercely protects you and the work you're doing. It's beautiful. So I think it's interesting that you mentioned about holding that support and that vigil. Okay, do animals offer advice? Like, do my dogs offer me advice?
Yes. Oh my God. You should hear what they have to say. These animals are incredible. I did this reading for this woman once of her cat. And this cat filled 10 pages of notes talking about what his person needed to do. He was saying she doesn't take her life seriously enough. She needs to get up in the morning. She needs to dress more professionally. He was saying she needs to get off her phone. She needs to meditate every single morning and really connect to who she is, because she has a big job here and she's not doing it fully. He said before going to bed, she needs to get off the phone and go through what she's grateful for and get centered before falling off to sleep. Wow, he had so much to say. And what's interesting is when I delivered these messages to her, she was like, oh my God, when I'm laying in bed on my phone, he literally sits on my phone so I can't look at it.
That's so funny. I love that. I do. I love that. Love, love, love that. Um, okay, and this is kind of okay. And I have to say another thing that I really like about what you do is because I've follow several plant-based vegan type stuff. And sometimes there's those posts that I'm just like, I can't even watch, and it makes me like unfollow things, right? And what I really like about what you do is you're sharing hope. You're sharing the possibilities, right? I think it's more you're opening up people's eyes to the possibilities of how we live, and you do share hope. And so I just wanted to bring that up, that you really are, again, changing the way people look at humanity, changing the way people look at animals, and changing the way, you are part of the shift that's going on of a higher consciousness, higher vibration. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I believe very, very heavily in the law of attraction, and what we put out there is what we create, right? And so how are we going to create peace by showing horrible images and brutal videos and being angry all the time? That's not going to create peace.
Yes. No, seriously. I mean, I'm so much that way. And honestly, I actually believe, and this is a difficult concept for people to get, but I really do believe that we have the ability to live in peace right now. We have the ability to experience compassion right now. And so unless, some part of us flips to that needs to see that contrast, but we have the ability to be in peace now. So I really admire what you do in showing that, right? Because maybe that's a big thing. We need to be reminded of that possibility.
Yeah.
Okay, how can we serve our animal friends better?
Oh, God, I love that question. We can serve them better by really listening to them, by acknowledging that we're all the same, though we look different, by acknowledging that they have thoughts and feelings just like we do. They experience just like we do. They have the same perception and memory as we do. We're literally all the same. And so by being surrounded by animals and really looking in their eyes and hearing their voice and listening to their voice inside of us, I believe that we're all born intuitive. And I think that we get derailed by the way that our society is set up, but we can find our way back to that whenever we choose it. So when we look inside the eyes of an animal, we feel something or we know something. Don't doubt that. Really trust ourselves and trust the animal and talk to them as if they understand, because they do, and listen to them as if they're talking, because they are.
Absolutely. I'm amen to that. I mean, I think it's so interesting because it's almost like, animals like, I'll talk to people and encourage them, talk to God, talk to the angels, whatever, right? Talk to those on the other side. But really, animals are kind of like that space in between, right? They're aware of the other side and then they're aware of us. And so I mean, I think that's part of the reason why we feel so good around them, right? They're so nurturing, they're so healing because they do have that ability to bridge both sides there for us. How do you prepare for a session before you're going to do your intuitive communication?
Yes. Oh, I love that question. So I are you familiar with scalar wave by any chance?
No.
So scalar wave is a meditation, but it's also a rebalancing of the chakras. And
Oh,
so I sit down, I have to meditate. It's all about my spiritual practice. So I meditate before I go into a session. Um, and I go through the chakra system in my body and I cleanse and purify every chakra. I bring light into my body to heal myself, because if our chakras are all crudted over and blocked, we're not going to be intuitive, right? But if we keep our chakras clean, if we keep the energy flow in and out of our body pure, and we keep that intuitive muscle open, then we are very receptive to getting guidance and words and pictures from animals and from the other side. And so I do my energy work, I do my meditation practice. And then immediately before a session, I sit in the stillness and I get myself neutral. I get myself physically neutral, mentally neutral, and emotionally neutral, so that there's nothing cluttering my mind, my heart, or my body. And I'm completely open to receive from who I'm going to communicate with.
I really appreciate that you're saying because, and I talk about this a lot where people can be intuitive, but our personality still bleeds through some, like our perception of the world still bleeds through some. And so you can have people that have, I'll just throw this out there. Like one person I'm thinking of who has PTSD from like a war stuff. And so he was doing intuitive work, but so much of what was coming up with, he was amazingly gifted, but his trauma was coming through, right? And so it wasn't necessarily um, the energy was off. And so I really like that what you're doing is you really are being as pure as possible and sharing that from, as from a very open space, open heart and love, right? I think that that's the piece is you're coming from a loving space versus a place of fear. And so you really can connect and what you're sharing really is of love, which is what this is all about. Absolutely. Okay, so I love this question. This is awesome. So, some people are easier to read than others. Are some animals easier to read?
Yes, yes. And I have totally experienced that. You know how you meet somebody and you have so much in common and you're sharing so much back and forth and you feel like you could talk to this person for 6 hours. And then there's other people that you meet and love,
Yeah.
but you have to ask a lot of questions to get them to open up, and it's not as flowing.
Yes,
It's the
absolutely.
same. Yeah, it's the same way in the animal world. There are animals where I hit it off with them and I literally don't want to get off the communication with them. I just want to talk to them forever. And then there are other animals where I have to really ask a lot of questions and really prompt them to get them to share with me.
So when you're communicating with them, do you like how do you do it? Do you see, feel, hear? Like how does it come to you?
Animals speak to me in videos, pictures, and words. So they'll show me full videos, they'll show me snapshots, and then I'll literally hear their voice and write down their sentences.
Okay, perfect. I love that. Do you feel like I'm a big feeler? So do you feel like, I mean, do you tune in that way also, like where you just feel like you can feel their energy, and you know who they are? Is that how it is with you also?
Yes, absolutely. And when I first ask to speak to an animal and tune into them, they'll usually do something that's very indicative of their essence and personality. So like a ball obsessed dog, I'll say, "May I speak with you?" And he'll hurl a ball at me.
Also,
Or like a scared horse, if I ask to speak to them, they'll rear up in the air and run away. So they'll show me who they are before I start asking questions.
yeah, I love that. And I mean, it's so interesting because it's so much like people. So this is from my daughter, and she wants to know, do they um do they have something that they would like all of humanity to know?
Oh gosh. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. I think they want us to know so much. And I love, how old is your daughter?
20.
Ah, I love that she asked that question. It's so beautiful. I think they have a lot of common messages. One, I talk to a lot of animals that have transitioned out of their bodies, and they really, really want us to know that there is no such thing as death. As a matter of fact, I have talked to so many animals on this subject that I have come to see the word death as a dirty word. I don't use it. I refuse to use it. There's no such thing. There is life, there's love, there's energy, and it moves in and out of form, but it is always there. And so animals from the other side are constantly telling their people, "I am right here with you. I did not die. I am still right here. But you need to look at me through different eyes." So instead of opening your eyes and wanting to see a physical form, now you have to feel me with your heart. And with your knowing, close your eyes and feel me. Look at the sunshine and feel me. Look at the sparkly things and feel me. Do the fun things that we used to do together and smile and feel me. But I am still right here. And that is a common thread through every single animal. I mean, it's just amazing.
I love that. And I mean, I have to say, I mean, I have so much hope for humanity, so much hope for our world, because really there is this younger generation that sees differently and that knows differently, right? And one time your husband posted something, I think one of your daughters had a birthday or something, and your husband posted something. I was like, oh, they get it. I loved it because the words that he chose really, like, it was so beautiful that the awareness, I guess, is what I want to share. And I love that. So with your awareness that they're, that they are on the other side, we can communicate with our loved ones, our animals on the other side. Does that ease the loss of, like the other day you wrote something about Dudley. So does that ease the loss, or is it still like this, you still feel that loss on this side, right?
I think it does, but I think it's still hard for a lot of us. I mean, we live in a very physical world. We have physical relationships where we hold and kiss and hug, and we live in the tangible. And then all of a sudden that being is gone from the tangible, and we have to grieve that physical relationship and that physical loss. So there is a necessary grieving process just for the shift in that relationship, right? Because it's a different relationship now. But I know that I lost Dudley, but before him, I lost my first cow, Buddha. And I literally thought I was going to die. I did not think I was going to survive that loss. And I don't know if I could have without animal communication. This is years ago, before I trusted my own intuition and my own communication. And so I went to animal communicators to help me through that loss. And to be able to hear their voice and relive memories and know that they're still right there is what allowed me to move forward. And so for those people that don't have the support of animal communicators and have to just deal with that loss on their own, I mean, I don't even know how they do it, which explains why we have a lot of suffering on this planet. But if you are someone that are open to that intuition and you can seek the advice and support of an animal communicator so you can still hear their voice, it really will help you. I literally did a reading before this podcast talking to someone who is trying to recover from the loss of their beloved dog. And she's really struggling. And she keeps reaching out to me because the more she can hear the voice of her beloved animal, the more she can know she's still right there and the more she can move forward. And it's really healing for her.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I a few days ago I did a reading for somebody, and when she said, like, I sent her the link to schedule, and so I was like, oh well, there's people, on the other side are going to come through. But what was so funny, and I'm telling you, they were lined up to talk to her, but what was so funny, who she wanted to hear from was her pet. She It's like everybody else, it did not matter. It was so funny to me.
Uh,
And it just shows the connection we have with our animals, right? Their family. um okay, so somebody else wanted to know about natural ways of healing our animals. So I know you do like trauma therapy with them, but other way, so like all the natural ways that we can heal our animals.
Oh, yes, we do so many natural ways here at the Gentle Barn. Um, we take in at the Gentle Barn, we take in animals that have nowhere else to go because they're too old, too sick, too lame, or too scared to be adoptable. And so rehabilitation is the name of the game, trying to get these animals walking, recovering, loving, and playing. So we do acupuncture, acupressure, chiropractics, deep tissue massage therapy, ultrasound, ice therapy, water therapy, energetic healing, animal communication, obviously. We use Jill and Jones CBD for inflammation. We use sun chlorella algae superfood to boost the immune system. Um, we use Pure Remedy for anything wrong with the skin. Um, and we really bring these animals to health and wholeness. And it's wonderful. We have a lot of animals that are kind of in the last phases of their lives. We have a beautiful, beloved cow named Karma who's in renal failure. We have a wonderful sheep that has lung cancer, and we have a turkey that is in liver failure. And the veterinarian gave them a very guarded prognosis, but we've been bringing energy healers into the barnyard every single week. And my sheep with lung cancer, he stopped coughing.
Oh,
My cow, it's incredible. My cow in renal failure, all of a sudden she's bright and glowing and eating and zipping around the barnyard again. And my turkey in liver failure, who was so deflated before, is now all of a sudden puffed up and back to showing off and strutting his stuff. So energy healing, scalar wave, Reiki, there's so many different modalities. Oh my God, I swear by it. And that's my first go-to when an animal is struggling.
I love that. I also want to bring back a little bit to you that even though, sometimes when we are feeling alone because we are so sensitive, um, you not only changed, not only embraced your gifts, so to speak, but you also manifested a support system. And I think that that's really huge because so many people, I'm sure that at some point you felt like you were all alone, right? And yet you manifested a support system that really not only helps you, but like you have been put up on, people know who you are and know what you do, right? So you have manifested this amazing life, an amazing way to share your uniqueness. So I just want to say that because again, we don't have to go through life feeling alone, right?
Thank you. Yes, yes, absolutely. I think that in a lot of cases, it seems that we are alone in our communities because, look, in a perfect world, we would all find each other and go live in a commune and we would meditate together and there would be peace on earth and we would have everyone surrounding us that were like ourselves and it would be amazing, right? But we wouldn't change anything on this planet doing that. It would
Right.
be amazing, but we
Right.
wouldn't make. So it's almost by design that we have to be alone in our communities because we're kind of like the little candle that's glowing in this dark, dark world. And we have to lighten it up and we have to affect those around us. But having said that, I think it's really important that at least on social media or in some way we connect to people like ourselves so that we know, okay, we might be alone in our communities. We might be the only one of our kind in our immediate circumstances, but there's someone over there and there's someone over there and there's people like me and they're doing the same work where they are and we're all collectively lifting this planet up and changing it forever. And that keeps us strong. It makes us feel a little bit less insane and it keeps us moving.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I also think it's important to remember that so that you don't feel like you're, in the rapids by yourself, right?
Yeah.
tossed around and no control of anything. You do have support, and there are so many people out there like you. Um, so have you noticed that like there's one animal or certain animals that almost are like the Jesus of the barnyard or the Buddha of the, you did have a Buddha, or no, you had a karma. So yeah, have you noticed that you have certain animals that just really are the teachers for the other animals, the spiritual teachers?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the majority of the animals that come to the gentle barn come to heal and find themselves and remember who they are and find purpose and live these beautiful lives on behalf of all those that don't. But there are definitely animals that come to the gentle barn that are here to be my partners, to teach with me, to heal with me, and to do this work with me. And I think that this work is just as important to them as it is to us. And so we really feel like true partners. And so Buddha was my first quote unquote cow, but she taught me how to meditate. She taught me how to listen. She told me her name. I write extensively about her in my book, My Gentle Barn, Creating a Sanctuary Where Animals Heal and Children Learn to Hope. I talk about her throughout the whole book. She wrapped her neck around me and held me when I was sad or scared. She hosted every single solitary group with me. She developed my program with me. She gave out 300,000 hugs in her lifetime. And she really raised me and connected me fully to who I am. And my cow Karma is very similar. She's the matriarch of the cows. She stands still for the most incredible hugs. Whenever I'm having a hard time, I go straight to her and she gives me the best mom hug. Yes. And I have a horse named Caesar, and he's really amazing too. I can bring him children from foster agencies or teenagers from gang prevention or drug and alcohol rehab centers, and he'll groom their cheeks with his mouth.
Oh,
yeah, I have a whole barnyard full of coworkers, animals, and they are amazing what they do for people.
so just like, I believe that certain people come into our lives, and help us, become what we're meant to become. It sounds like animals come into our life and they do the same thing. They help us find a new way, see a new possibility. And again, I think, if you didn't have that ability to look for possibilities, you wouldn't recognize Karma and Buddha. You wouldn't recognize them as your teachers, as your guides, as your partners. And and maybe that's the greatest gift, is our ability to look at the possibilities, for sure.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, love that.
Yeah, I have. So we live right on a preserve in Phoenix, but I have these little bunnies that I feed, and so they know as soon as I open up the slider, they are like, I adore them, and it's so sweet, and they have the same energy. Like I feel like their same happy energy as our dogs, and it's so interesting to me, like how, because of society, we have been able to say, well, this animal is used for X, Y, and Z, and this animal is used for, right. And so again, we have shut the possibilities down. And do you have any words of wisdom in terms of like how to see the possibilities, how to lift some of those ideas?
Yes. We as humans love to put everything in its nice, neat little box, right? Oh, you're smart, you're dumb, you're worthy, your food. Oh, we love to organize and put everything in boxes, and it just isn't so. And so that's one of the things I'm trying so hard through my animal communication and work and the Gentle Barn to blur those lines. There are no boxes. I've had chickens run to me when I call their names. I've had turkeys fall asleep in my laps. I've had cows hug me. I've had horses teach me. All spirit is the same. It's just the case that we come in is a little bit different. But it's like to say, like, well, I drive this kind of car and you drive that kind of car, and so I'm going to judge you by your car. And it's like, well, I mean, the car is a representative maybe of who we are, but it's not who we are. I can get out of the car and I'm still me. So I'm trying to like blur those lines and if we could all, in our own little areas, wherever we are in the world, if we, when we encounter another human or another animal, regardless of the species, if we can look at their soul and their essence and who they are instead of what they are, we could have peace on earth in 5 minutes.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because people have learned sometimes is afraid to feel, right? But if you open up and you do allow yourselves to feel, that is when you do connect. Surprisingly, right? You might connect to the plant, you might connect to the earth, you might right to the salamander, and that's the piece because we all have that same energy, that same I'll just say divine energy, right? We're all connected to it, so we all carry that. So, if somebody wanted to volunteer, because you do amazing things at the Gentle Barn, if somebody wanted to volunteer when COVID is gone, do you have positions open for that? Like if they were interested, if they felt like this is my calling?
Yes, absolutely. And we have a Gentle Barn location in Los Angeles, Nashville, and St. Louis. So you can go to gentlebarn.org and look for a location near you, find out ways to visit, find out ways to volunteer and get
Okay.
involved. Absolutely.
Um, and I know I'm forgetting something, but if you had like your greatest message, like the greatest message that you would like people to know about animals or people to know about the world, what would it be?
It would be we're all the same. We're all the same. We're all the same. We're all here for an amazing reason. And we have gifts inside of us that we've come to share with the world. And when we connect back to what that is, we can really share and live our purpose and uplift everyone around us.
Absolutely. I love that. So how do you heal? Like how do you you're around a lot. I'll just put it that way. You're around a lot. So how do you heal? How do you self-care?
Yeah, yeah. And self-care is so important. Um, I let the animals strengthen me when I'm struggling. I'll go into the barnyard and they'll give back everything that I've given to them and more. I let nature be there for me. So if I'm feeling not so strong, I go and I feel the power of the ocean. If I'm not feeling centered, I go and I feel the centeredness of a tree and I hug a tree and I get that energy. There's wisdom in rocks. There's wisdom in the earth. Sometimes I just lay down on the ground and soak up all that energy to get recentered, refocused, and regrounded. And I have my healers. I have my energy team. There are people that I go to when I'm in crisis, when I'm suffering from compassion fatigue, or I fall to my knees because of a certain passing of an animal. I go to the people that uplift me. I work with mediums, I work with psychics, I work with oracle card readers. Those are the people that lift me up when I can't lift myself up. So, no matter who we're serving or what we're doing for others, we always need to find those who will teach us, uplift us, and be there for us when we falter. And it's important.
And I think one of the most important things of what you just said is recognizing, I think a lot of times people come to me for readings or come to whoever for readings because that feels good, right? You have that energy. And so, whether you're laying on the earth or wherever you're going to feel better, you're connecting to that energy of love. You're connecting to that healing energy. And so I think it's just really important to recognize that it comes in so many different ways and access it, right? To honor that it is healing and good for you that you know that you need that because you're doing a lot by changing the world.
Thank you. And the other thing that I don't think we do enough as people is we don't pay attention to the things that make us feel good. We're working jobs, we're taking care of our kids, we're buying the groceries, we're cooking the meals, we're keeping the house clean. There's so many things that we're doing that we tend to not pay attention to the things that bring us pleasure. And I'm not talking about like big things like cruises or vacations. I'm talking about little things. I'm talking about I've identified, the top 5 things that give me pleasure: hiking in nature with my dogs, laying on the couch and snuggling them, bubble bath, and eating fresh, beautiful fruits and vegetables, and obviously being out in the barnyard. I think those are the top 5 things that bring me joy. And I try to do those things, or at least one of those things, every single day. So yes, I'm working hard, I'm working long hours. Sometimes I don't have days off or lunch breaks, but I make sure that at least one of those things are added to my day. So I'm always doing the things that uplift me and bring me joy. And then when I'm in crisis, I dive headfirst into all of those things, and doing those things resuscitate me.
I love that. I think it's so important. I love, love, love that. And we share similar things that we love, right? And it is healing. And to recognize what feels good to you, right? I mean, because that's part of this whole thing of feeling,
Yeah.
right? That's why we can feel, and to not be afraid of it. And it is a very very personal, we're going to have these different connections, or we feel different, like it's different for everybody. And to also honor that, like we all respond differently to it, and need different things, and to really recognize that it's okay, and go out and do what heals you, right? And it might look different than your neighbors.
Yeah, we grew up in a culture that somehow has this thing that to like care for ourselves is being selfish. Like we have this whole like, oh, we don't want to be selfish. And so we have this whole ethic in our culture to like do everything for everyone else, but not take care of ourselves. But I mean, I don't see the intelligence in that, because I think when we nurture ourselves, when we practice self-care, when we know what brings us pleasure and joy, we can serve others way better. My husband, he works really, really, really hard taking care of everyone else. And he was tanking, right? He was becoming ineffective in his job. He was becoming ineffective in the household because he was working so hard, doing so much for everyone else and nothing for himself. And I kept asking him, what brings you pleasure? What makes you happy? You've got to find that little something and do it every day. And he kept saying, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And finally, after years of asking that question, he finally figured out that he loves having a Jeep and working on the Jeep. And so now he wakes up every morning, and for like 30 to 60 minutes every morning before work, he goes out and fiddles around with his Jeep. And you know what? He's a different human being now. And now he's more effective in the workplace. He's more effective in the home, and he's more centered and grounded in himself, because he can nurture himself a little bit, which enables him to take care of everybody else even better.
Absolutely. And he is, I mean, obviously, I don't know you guys personally, but he's very, and everything that he shares is very supportive, and he's like the cheerleader, right? He is like, I mean, if there's somebody's birthday, if there's anything that needs to be recognized, he's there doing it. And any ability that needs to, I mean, everything, he's that person. And so I imagine in real, in everyday life, right? He's that person. He's that person that celebrates and holds space and encourages. He's that person. And so for him to find what recharges his battery is so important. Okay, so one last question in terms of like um, raising children in this time, right? Raising children to become aware of the possibilities. What's your message there?
Oh my God, that is one of my favorite topics. Because, okay, look, this is how I see the world. I see us as all born knowing who we are, and we're all born knowing why we've come. And then we're put into school and we're told to sit down, be quiet, follow the rules, deny your own instincts, ignore your own impulses, and do what everyone else wants you to do. And before you know it, you are so lost that we have no idea who we are or why we've come. And then we enroll in a lifetime of serving everyone else but ourselves. And then we can't practice self-care, and we crash and burn. And I think that's why there's so much pain. So when we're parents, we can start from the very, very beginning, and we can instill in our children to listen to their instincts, to follow their own impulses, to trust themselves, and to find their own voice, and to support them and follow their lead. In our society, we like to say that we are here to teach children. And I think it's the exact opposite. I think children are here to teach us. And if we just move out of their way and support what they want, oh my God, we can make them shine. So I have a daughter who's now 15, but when she was 2 years old, she said she wanted to be, she said, Mommy, when I grow up, I'm going to be like Michael Jackson. And I had no idea what that meant at the time, but I said, babe, you could be anything you want to be. And so she said, okay, take me to learn to dance. I said, okay. So I took her down to the local dance studio and they said, I'm so sorry, she has to be 3 to enroll. So I explained to my daughter, babe, you're 2 and you have to be 3 to learn to dance at that studio. And so when you're 3, I'll take you back. Every single solitary morning, she would wake up and say, am I 3 yet? No, baby. Am I 3 yet? No, baby. Am I 3 yet? No, baby. 8 months later, am I 3 yet? Yes, today's your birthday. Take me to dance. And I signed her up on her 3rd birthday and she's been dancing ever since. She knows who she is. She knows why she's come. I don't have to put her in school and torture her to be good at science. She's a dancer. Now, obviously she's going through school and learning things, but I am following her impulses and I'm supporting what she's interested in, and she's blossoming into the person that she was meant to be. I don't have to fix it. I don't have to teach it. I don't have to control it. I need to trust her.
Absolutely.
And yeah. And if we could just trust our little ones. I remember Cheyenne was like a toddler and just learning to walk. And she had a pail in one hand and she had a doll in the other and she wanted to climb up a ladder. And I didn't stop her and I didn't tell her, oh my God, you can't do that. I stood behind her so if she fell, I could catch her. And I watched my daughter with things in her hands climb up a ladder. So we're not here to tell them what they can and cannot do. We're not here to control them and retrain them. We're here to trust them, bless them, love them, and follow their lead.
I love that. And it can be, I mean, I'll say this like with my middle one that asked the question, you know, she went from her group, her high school group, and she's matured so much, she's shifting into a completely different person. And that in between time of I'm not that anymore, I'm this, you know, finding her way, that is very passionate about humanity, about the world, about you know, equality. And really I think one of her passions, and I love it, is making everything available to everybody, so that, you know, like you have the gentle barn, everybody can come to it, right? You open the doors, it doesn't matter. I mean, you really do invite those who have suffered injustice, right? And that's her story. I mean, that's her thing, is to bring that to everybody. And I love that. I think it's just so, but again, they have to find it, right? It's not us. And they have to, just like you and I have gone through whatever to figure out where we're at. Okay, and this just popped into my mind. Do you find animals, you know how people will say their kids have ADHD, blah, blah, blah. Do you have animals that like will have certain characteristics like that other people would be like, that animal's got ADHD or whatever?
Um, but not that the animal would describe. It's only the people that kind of describe
Yeah.
him that way. Like I had this woman who asked me to speak to her dog and she said, you know, good luck, I think he's autistic. But I mean, the dog didn't find himself that way. The dog was actually just very focused and very deliberate. And that's the way that he approached the world. She was judging him as maybe autistic. And I've had animals that like will talk to me a mile a minute. You know, they're just talking like ADD almost. But when so the person would describe them as very difficult to train or get to just sit quiet. But the dog is just approaching the world with what he has and who he is.
Okay, this really is the last question. So, in terms of like finding vets, like finding the team that work on the animals that you share your life with, how do you do that? Because it's such a bizarre thing, you know, the vet school that they go through, the training that they get, and not all of them view the animals as our friends, right? So, how do you select the vet that you allow to work on your friends?
Great question. And it's taken us years to finally really find veterinarians that have our same values. But yes, when you're looking for a vet, you want to find someone that shares your values. I remember working with a vet that was very much from the dairy and meat industry. And I had a cow who came pregnant. She had a baby. And this baby, very quickly, by the time he was a year, was towering over her. She was a very small miniature cow and he was huge. And so by the time he was a year old, he had to lay down and roll over to nurse from her. And it was, kind of an embarrassing spectacle to watch. And the vets like had an absolute conniption fit. They were like, you have to separate them. You have to wean him. This is not okay. And I just looked at them and I was like, I am not going to tell her how to be a mom. She knows what she's doing. And when she's had enough, she'll wean him. And I'm not going to give her parenting advice. Like, that's not something I'm going to do. She knows what she's doing. Well, I mean, they couldn't really align themselves with how I thought. So they kind of moved off and didn't really want to work with us anymore. But over the years, we've been able to attract vegan veterinarians.
Nice.
And not only are they vegan and they see the animals as our family members and not quote unquote food, but they also are open to my animal communication. So now I'll reach out and go, wow, this animal's really not doing well. And they'll say, well, have you talked to him? What does he want to do? And every time I'm like, I just love you. So I think when I started the Gentle Barn 21 years ago, there wasn't enough vegans that were going through vet school to be available. I think, it was a standard meat and dairy industry veterinarians that came with that philosophy. But veganism is on the rise.
Yes.
Animal communication and intuition is on the rise. And more of those people are now going to vet school. And so now 21 years later, there's this plethora of vegan, intuitive, open, spiritual, loving, kind vets that want farm animals to have the lives that all animals deserve. And we're finding them and connecting with them. And it's amazing.
I love that, because if you want to talk about going through, like, I'm just imagining going through vet school and that model, if you are a compassionate vegan, going through that would probably be pretty tough, and you would have to see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? You would have to see what you are going to do on the other side. So
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Okay, if people want to get a reading from their animal, and they can be crossed over, correct? You can connect with them. Okay, so if somebody would like to have a reading from you for their animal, what's the best way to reach you?
The best way is to go through my website, which is ellielaks.com, ELLIELAKS.com. You can read about what animal communication is, how it works, how I talk to animals in their bodies or out of their bodies, and how to book a session right there.
Awesome. Okay. And then Gentle Barn's all over the place, so people can find out about Gentle Barn, all the work you've done. If they want to volunteer, if they want to donate, they can just go to the Gentle Barn. You have a book out, so you're sharing all your secrets, just everything. You're obviously very generous with everything you do. And I think, is there anything else that you would like to share about how to reach you, or just any message in general?
I guess I just want to say, if you're an empath, if you've always felt different, if you feel really sensitive, if you can't watch violence on TV, if it's hard to flip through social media because of the graphic stuff that's on there, I'd like to invite you to protect yourself a little bit. Find the people on social media that think like you, love like you, and portray the world like you want to see it. Don't follow pages that bring you crashing to your knees. Follow pages that uplift you and inspire you. Bring friends to your inner circle that uplift you and inspire you. Indulge in positive conversations like this one, where you are filled with hope for the world and connection instead of separation and isolation. And know that you're the only one of your kind for a very important reason, because you're shining the light for everyone around you to see. So be proud of that, indulge in that, celebrate that, use your voice, dance your dance, shine your light, and then connect to others either virtually or in real, so that you can know you're not the only one, and we are all holding hands, connected, in love with each other, and we're all changing this planet together.
I love that. And what you're saying is so true. Do not feel bad about cleaning up your house. Do not feel bad about cleaning up the people you're hanging out with. Do not feel bad about walking away from things that are more toxic. It's just, again, amen. We speak the same language. So thank you so much, Ellie. I so appreciate it. And this will be posted in various areas, and I'm going to write on my blog on this, but I am going to stop recording.